Hey guys, I'm going to be covering a band that just keeps coming back harder and harder to my subconscious over the years, and that is Modest Mouse. They were a very fantastic alternative rock band in the late '90s and early 2000s that particularly remind me of like kind of a continuation of a lot of what REM is doing. Like I feel like Radiohead kind of took this completely differently. Modest Mouse is almost a more similar, but more raw and they have a little bit more of a frustration, a loud frustration about them. I really love, and because like everything about their sound is uncomfortable, there's always an anxious quality to their music, and I think they've really bend the rules in a very organic way that's quite melodic, but it also just feels like it's always kind of wrong. It's skewed in a certain kind of way. And I'll say there's only two albums I love. One's a really great one also, but and I didn't always love this band. They grew on me because it's like I mean, they really I think it's a certain ear for just a certain kind of frustration in the air and letting out some raw steam is what Modest Mouse represents ultimately. And I think they're a perfect band at expressing this particular mood. Very important, very timeless. I mean, they were one of the best bands at expressing what this particular frustration feels like for a lot of people when they're older, but you can't really scream about it, but you kind of feel it inside. The first album that they made was Ground. I didn't really listen too much to their album before 1996, but I mean, it's just two albums that get me. But the first one's Lonesome Crowded West in 1997. I didn't even listen to those all the same. I must say, I'm just sorry a second. But yeah, there's a few songs on here. I mean, I love stuff like Atmosphere. I hear Atmosphere in this album. It reminds me rawly of just traveling through like just a bunch of like cities and small towns and just kind of going on a rendezvous adventure. There's loneliness, but there's also like friends you meet along the way who kind of bring some sort of enlightenment to you in a certain kind of way. Like songs like Convenient Parking, just kind of feeling that aimless, maybe like fulfillment of moments that are not consistently fulfilled all the time, you could say. And that's what I think Modest Mouse is almost like pushing it, made a lit. Like songs like Chuck or Alice are one of my all-time favorites because it's 10 minutes long, and I mean, it's just absolutely incredible and so funky that it just knocks me out from start to finish. I'm having so much fun. It just feels like an upgrade of even like stuff like Sonic Youth is doing. Yeah, Trucker Atlas is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's like their own mini epic. They were onto Modest Mouse is certainly onto a lot of their own little mini epics. Heart Cook's Brain is such a beautiful song, perfect melody. Ballads like Cowboy Dan trailer. It's just Heart Cook's Brain is just one of the best, just intriguing songs of all time. I mean, just like some of this stuff's just it's uniquely dark. I mean, Teef's like God Shoeshine, and it all feels awkward. My favorite song on the album's got to be Lounge Closing Times. It's just like a big show, along with Trucker's Atlas. It just feels like they're just putting on the ultimate epic in their own kind of way. Oh, the epicness of the bass and Lounge's Closing Times, as well as the way it kind of just slows down and descends into this slow melody. And I don't know, it's tear-inducing how beautiful that song is. Really, it's exciting. It feels like the thrill of love, and then the essence of losing that movement, but kind of having it in your spirit and heart forever. That's kind of what that song feels like to me. All these songs, I mean, golly, it's quite perfect, really. Styrofoam Boots, it's nice on ice, all right, it's perfect. I mean, that's a perfect conclusion to the album. I really love that one. Yeah, that's amazing. And then you got favorite album they did. They got even better in the year 2000 with The Moon and Antarctica. It became more ethereal. Just like Radiohead was with Kid A. It's like a progression for something a little more of a grounded frustration to making that grounded frustration more ethereal and abstract. I think that's what the early 2000s were laying up that I had to catch up to at times. It was way too ahead of my time and my youth to grasp. So like now I get it. Like what was going on. That's the most important time period for me now, honestly. Like the root of what was going on in the late 90s to the early 2000s. A lot of question marks are coming answered here. There's certainly kind of the last stage of a lot of like, the hippies were on to something here. This is very anti like hippie in a way because I think they grew up around a lot, so they're too aware of the flaws of it all. I think that's what a lot of our generation's seeing, like moving something forward here in that kind of sense because you feel it, but it isn't real in a sense too. So maybe our generation's just a little more into that. As Modest Mouse is the ultimate expression of it. This album in particular. And it's just, I just want to go to Planet Mars for a little while. And just like Kid A kind of does came out the same year. And I mean, this album's quite perfect at taking me through something that feels like a little bit of like a grunge influence, a little bit of a Flaming Lips influence, a little psychedelic in its own kind of way, but it's just really beautiful the entire way through. It's never too overwhelming. A lot of just great influence kind of going into all these songs. Like Tiny Cities Made of Ashes is just such a groove. It feels like the disco song is kind of happening here. I love this album. It kind of just gets right into just a certain kind of feeling here. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. The best song they ever made is Life Like Weeds. That's another one of their just mini epics. That's just, it absolutely feels like a perfect kind of song. And the whole album just has a feeling to it. That's the best way I can describe it. There's almost only so much I could say about that, I mean, it's just a feeling. It's a feeling you never forget. All the songs kind of take me to it in their own way. And it always feels like it's ahead of my time. It's almost like I'm still trying to grasp like just how good all this is. You know, The Stars Are Projectors is amazing. I mean, that's quite a beautiful epic. Lives. It's just all some of these songs are really short. Like, it just feels like they were on something of a Beatles White Album-esque sort of wavelength on this album, where they were just really looking at something transcendental and just projecting how they feel on this unique sort of journey, you know? So I love that. And honestly, like, the first stuff I ever heard by them, where I was like, okay, I don't know if I love this band. This is the good news for people who love Bad News 2004, because they have a few masterpiece singles on this album, but it's not the same kind of epic journey, album journey experience like the previous two are. But all the same, I mean, Float On's a genius songs. It's like borderlines on being almost like too cheerful and optimistic compared to the rest of their stuff. But honestly, it does work. You know, it's like, it's a pretty nice, modern, optimistic song, as well as my favorite song, you know, it's got to be that. Oh, wow. Hang on. The World Out. Yeah. Why am I forgetting the name? That's so dumb of me. The Ocean's Brief Salty. Yeah, that's the best. That's a very atmospheric, like just hanging out at the beach, melancholic kind of song. But yeah, those are my best. But it's 1997, 2000 are their perfect prime era. So I recommend this band to anybody. I mean, they are perfect modern band. They do get better with age. So yeah, they're quite genius. Highly recommend them.